And we're back. Wait, let me restart. Now you got me like I'm psyched out now.
I know. Welcome to the inside of my head.
Welcome back to the Digital C podcast. We are continuing our journey through Spookvember, which is where me and Ryan talk about all the spooky games that we played in October that we inevitably could not get recorded and released in time for October and the spooky season. So I think we should just have a traditional Spookvember for the podcast. What do you think?
I mean, 1 month is not enough time to be spooky.
It's really not. I think November, but you could argue, you and I like the holidays, and you could argue that 1 month is not enough time to be Christmassy either, right? It's kind of like sometimes less of a good thing is better.
Yeah. Although I'll totally shove January into December and call that the holidays and Christmas and everything.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. So Christmas, December through January, spooky it's the end of like September through maybe like middle of November or something like that. That being said, we're recording this on the 24th. This is probably going to be coming out in December.
Even spookier. Speaking for myself, I get scared big time playing scary games. So the spook meter is just absolutely tacked out, and it takes me a little bit to get through some of these.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? If you've listened to our last episode, which is Alan Wake 2, you'll know that we were in desperate need of spooking after playing that game and after that episode. So
yeah, that's exactly what I was just about to say.
I'm delighted to say that we finally got spooked, I think, with this one.
Absolutely. And what else we talked about in our last episode is how much more vulnerable you feel when you're playing a video game. There's really nothing besides real life that can scare you the way that a video game can scare you. And man, Silent Hill 2 Remake, which is what we're talking about today, definitely has some scares. Really quick, can we circle back and do a little bit of follow-up?
Yes.
I forgot to talk to you about this when we were recording about Alan Wake, but which controller did you use when you played Alan Wake?
Which controller?
Yeah, did you play it on keyboard?
Mouse and keyboard. Same thing with Silent Hill.
Really? Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I played both with controllers. I played Alan Wake 2 with the DualSense controller because it was the only game that I've heard of, although I know that there's maybe a couple more, but the only game that I've played and I've heard of that has DualSense haptics for the game. And I was really excited to try that out. I felt like Alan Wake would have been the perfect title for that.
So when you have your DualSense connected up to PC, do you get that translated still, or
Rarely.
how does that work?
Rarely. And that's why I wanted to try it out.
And it worked?
Not well, but it did work.
Okay.
It did
Or was
work.
the implementation itself just not that great, despite it actually working on PC?
Well, the problem is that I believe the haptics are fed through via audio files. And so PC has a really hard time sussing out what's what. And you have to have the PlayStation controller in settings as a microphone so that it can get the proper information it needs to do the haptics. But one of the problems I ran into was it just wouldn't work right. The adaptive triggers worked. So every gun, like the crossbow and the pistol and the shotguns, they all had different feeling triggers, which was really fun. But what really made me, when I was reading about the game before playing it, and I was on the forums and stuff, everyone was saying like, ooh, you can feel every raindrop. Which is something I was excited to experience because that was one of my favorite parts of Astrobot was feeling the rain. And I felt like what better than a game like Alan Wake where it's going to be Pacific Northwest and raining all the time, which it definitely rained a lot in that game. Unfortunately, the raindrops, I messed around with it for like maybe an hour and I just could not get it to work. And then I decided it wasn't worth it. So
weird. That's a
triggers
bummer.
only.
I figured with all the work that Sony's put into the apps that they've added to PC to help adapt their controllers, since they're finally porting PlayStation games to PC shortly after release, that they would kind of get those kinks worked out. But yeah, I mean, I guess they haven't been on the PC side of things very long, so hopefully that's something that they can work towards in the future.
I hope it is because it's pretty cool technology, and I want maybe the next Xbox Elite controller that they make to have some of that kind of stuff. Although I don't think that it will. I'd be pretty stoked if the next Xbox Elite controller or Pro controller, whatever it's called, would just work properly.
Yeah, I will never buy another Xbox controller. I'm done.
I
I've
probably will.
spent so much money, so much money on the Elite Series controllers that have just failed me over and over again. Just massive QC issues on Xbox's end with those controllers. I've never had a controller line fail so often. First it was the X button, then it was the grips, now it's the Y button. It's just I'm over it. I will get a third party alternative.
Yeah, I 100% agree. But there's no better feeling controller in the world. There's some that rival it, but they don't surpass it for me. And so I will probably keep throwing money at it because there's no alternative. And that's just unfortunately the same business model that so many companies use, Nvidia included. Back to Alan Wake really quick, to finish this up. I was playing that game on the DualSense, and you know my feelings, and listeners of the podcast might not know my feelings, actually. I can't remember. Kind of all the podcasts we've recorded and the ones we've released have kind of blurred together in my head. If I haven't spoken about it on another podcast that's been released, I really don't like the DualSense controller. It just doesn't fit my hand very well. It's physically uncomfortable for me to use. And while I was playing a game like Alan Wake 2, which was mentally uncomfortable to play, not in like a good horror way, but in a I'm frustrated with this game kind of way, it just added to that. So maybe that was part of why I was so harsh with it, is just that added little sprinkle of frustration with the DualSense controller.
And just to clarify for everybody, this isn't exclusive to Sony's DualSense controller or the DualSense Edge controller. This goes all the way back to what? PlayStation, the original design, right? PlayStation
Original
1, 2,
PlayStation.
3,
I put that
DualShock.
controller in my hand. I remember very specifically at a friend's house. We were going to play like a basketball game. And I was like, this sucks. I think the only controller I'd held before that was maybe an N64 controller, which I think is a really great controller, first time at least. I know it gets a little bit of hate, but I really like that controller. And man, the PlayStation controller just never felt right.
Yeah, PlayStation 1 through 3 controllers never felt good. DualShock 4, or the fourth iteration for the PlayStation 4, felt good, not great. And then for me personally, the DualSense and the Edge, they made the controller bigger, and I have no issues with it. I love the controller.
Yeah. And we have, holy shit, I just saw a crazy detail. I'm watching a Silent Hill 2 remake. I gotta remember to talk about that. We okay. So me and Ryan have a very a long kind of standing debate here about how the PlayStation controller was originally engineered by the Japanese engineers to hold in your hands. I'm on the side that I truly believe that they developed that controller to be pointer fingers on the top trigger, L1 and R1, and then middle finger on the lever triggers, which is, L1 and L2 and R2. Ryan thinks that that's crazy. I think that that's literally how it was designed to make.
That's crazy.
I think it was literally how that controller was designed to be held, and then it evolved after the Xbox controllers came out and stuff like that to be pointer fingers on the triggers. But when I hold the PlayStation controllers in my hand with pointer finger on the top, middle finger on the bottom, it feels like just way more comfortable. Now, I would never play like that because that's crazy, and it's just not comfortable. When you pull the trigger of your gun, you want to be pulling it with your trigger finger, right? But
yeah, that's crazy.
But I think that that's how it was originally intended in the 90s to be held. That's just, I don't know how I'm going to prove that, but one day I will, and Ryan's going to hear about it on this podcast when I do.
I will be there for it. I'll be there for that moment. I'll remember that moment forever.
Yeah.
What psycho would hold any controller with both your index and middle fingers on the triggers and shoulder buttons? Oh,
I have no idea, but I think that what psycho would design a controller with both thumbsticks so far down on the controller? That's what I want to know.
The same psycho that would thumb wrestle himself.
Don't even talk to me. Don't fucking start on the thumb wrestle thing. That's your favorite joke.
But look, everyone's got their own comfort in so many different aspects of life, especially gaming. You want to be comfortable. It's a leisure activity. you like what you like. One office chair is going to feel super uncomfortable to you, but feel comfortable to me, and so on and so forth. So
Exactly.
I respect your need for proper ergonomics for your hands. I get it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
I do. I will still make fun of you, but
Of
I
course.
do I do respect. I respect the hustle to find the ultimate comfort, and nothing is worse than a crampy hand during a long game sesh that you're really enjoying.
Oh man, physically hurts my hands. Okay, so let's get back to Silent Hill 2. I'm really excited to talk to you about this. This was the perfect game to play immediately following Alan Wake 2. I could
Yes.
not have imagined a better lineup to what do I want to say? Rinse your mouth out of the taste of Alan
Mm-hmm.
Wake 2.
Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad we did not play Silent Hill 2 Remake first. That
Oh
would have
my god.
made I don't know if I would have made it
I
through
don't think
Alan
I would
Wake
have.
2. And I know we just spoke on this prior, but I am still in awe and shock that everyone, critics and players alike, love Alan Wake 2 so much. I'm still beside myself. I do not see what everyone else is seeing. You want to talk about different strokes for different folks? There it is.
Hmm.
Goodness. I do
And that's
not get
great.
that one.
I'm happy for the people that love it. I'm not one of them. I think that there's pretty good arguments to make that objectively it's bad, but if you are, I I just completely undermined what I just said. I feel bad now, but I'm definitely someone who loved Silent Hill 2 Remake, and I know that a lot
Mhm.
of critics agreed with that as well.
Interestingly, Silent Hill, if I'm not mistaken, is a franchise that neither of us have touched before, and we both played the original Alan Wake back whenever the heck that game came out, 15 years ago or whenever it was.
That's true.
So you would really think that this is coming from fans of the original Alan Wake game, and we are jumping in headfirst into the second part of Silent Hill, not knowing a whole lot about it, and somehow staying spoiler free pretty much all of these years. Is
It's
that
very,
accurate?
yeah, that's very accurate, and also it's what's interesting is, yeah, I see the point you're making because like we liked Alan Wake 1, right? Both of us did. And both of us, pretty much resoundingly did not like Alan Wake 2. But Silent Hill 2 is an anthology, right? So we didn't necessarily have to play the first game without playing to play the second. Whereas I think you would definitely be missing a lot if you have only played the second Alan Wake and not the first one.
Interesting. So, similar to games like Final Fantasy and some others that I'm not thinking of right now, all of these are independent.
As far as I understand, yes, I've done a little bit of reading on it, and while I believe they take place in the same town, although
Mm-hmm.
that's debatable given the nature of the town, and we're going to get into that as we continue this discussion. They are different characters. There's maybe callbacks. There's maybe a little bit of overlap, but they're different stories, and they don't really share characters or anything, as far as I know. I could be wrong about that.
Interesting. That makes me feel a little bit more at peace because I love playing games. I mean, you know me.
Yeah,
I will go back and play some old games just so that I can get every little crumb, so that I feel like I'm starting off on the right foot with a game in the series. So
that's right. And when we were, the reason I know that is because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, do I need to download some sort of jank ROM of or some sort of emulation of Silent Hill 1 before I play Silent Hill 2 Remake? And I Googled it, and everyone was saying, don't worry about it, just jump into Silent Hill 2 Remake. It's a good first iteration of the game. And from what I've read after beating the game, and of course I haven't really read reviews, but I've just seen stuff here and there, and almost everything that I've seen is people saying that even though the original Silent Hill 2 was legendary for a reason, the Silent Hill 2 remake was almost better in almost every way. And everybody pretty much, it's a weird thing when, I mean, there's always going to be the people who always they say the original's better, right? The Demon Souls remake is a good example. There's a lot of people that said Demon Souls 1 was better, they lost some of its magic, but overwhelmingly people like the Demon Souls remake, and overwhelmingly people really like the Silent Hill 2 remake, probably even more than the Demon Souls remake.
if those Sony cowards ever put Demon Souls on PC, I would love that. That'd be great.
I would
See what
too.
the community has to say, see what Steam has to say, because at this point, Steam user rating is what, 96% or higher for Silent Hill 2 Remake? It's very, very high.
Yeah, that's rare. especially for a game like this.
Yeah.
Usually the 96, 97% games are games like Factorio that are so niche that anyone who's going to go and play it, let alone review it, has a very high opinion of it. Not to say that it's not an amazing game, but those are the little niche indie games are the ones I usually see with like above 95.
Yeah. Let alone a remake,
Yeah.
like we just spoke on. Yeah.
Speaking of ratings,
Speaking of,
you want to go first?
yeah, I'm excited to hear what you have to say about this one.
I've been debating this. I beat the game maybe a month ago, and maybe a little bit less than a month ago, and I have
Yeah.
been. Whew, it's tough for me.
Yeah. I was the beginning portion of November, like probably 2 weeks ago. I beat the game. It's been on my mind ever since. I haven't stopped thinking about this game while moving forward and playing other games.
Yeah, same. All right, you want to go first? I'll go first. I'll go first. I'm excited.
All right.
All right.
All right.
I give Silent Hill 2 Remake the rare, the coveted 10 out of 10.
Oh, wow. This is a first. This is a Digital C podcast exclusive.
You're right.
10 out of 10 from Tan. And you know what? I have yet to give a 10 out of 10 on this podcast as well.
That's true.
But I'm right there with you.
You give it a 10 too?
This is absolutely a 10 out of 10 masterpiece.
Yes.
It's
Absolutely.
something like I've never experienced before. A legendary experience.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. It's a game that you think about, like we just talked about. We just keep thinking about it when you're done with it. You want to replay it immediately to get different endings. You want to spend more time in this universe. You want to see what you missed the first time through. And in my case, you know what I did? I downloaded the original Silent Hill 2 and I started playing like
Really?
maybe 3 hours of it. Yeah. Because I wanted to see how different it was. I wanted to see if this game really was, what did they do to remake it and make it so great? I wanted to see how much it kind of evolved or how much it branched away. And holy shit. I mean, I know that the time is the revelator, right? But Silent Hill 2 Remake just seems better in almost every single way. Now, I know that the original is legendary. I know it has that eerie feeling. It has that eerie feeling that you can only really get from like 90s era video game fog, But man, the voice acting is not great. And in the first little bit that I saw. And it's been a long time since a game has evoked such emotion from me and evoked such a feeling of despair and wonder at the same time, maybe ever. And it's a true masterpiece, and I can't wait to talk to you about it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I haven't had this feeling since Tears of the Kingdom, and before Tears of the Kingdom, it was Elden Ring as far as my 10 out of 10s go. So it's been a couple years now that I have right now as I'm speaking. I've got goosebumps. Sorry for growling earlier. I was like, yeah, 10 out of 10. Let's go. It's just it's an experience that just makes you want to let out a guttural grunt sound because you don't know what else to do with your body. It's a phenomenal and genius experience, and I am very interested in seeing the original Silent Hill 2 alongside with the rest of the games. Because this was just a mind blowing experience. It was so damn good, and like all 10 out of 10s and like all masterpieces, there's flaws and there's things that I can complain about. But this,
Of course.
it doesn't matter. It's at the wayside. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just speechless, literally speechless.
Yeah.
I'm just bumbling and tripping over myself with how fantastic of an experience this was.
Yeah.
I vividly remember hearing kids in elementary school talking about Silent Hill, and they would say, "Oh, Resident Evil, it's really scary, but nothing is as scary as Silent Hill." And granted, this is back in the early thousands, 4th grade, 5th grade, whenever it was. And at the time, I didn't have a proper console. I think I had a Game Boy. Was all at the time, and hearing the kids with that playground talk, just saying wild stuff like, yeah, like even my older brother couldn't keep playing it, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And And it's just like, yeah, like I get it now. And I know this experience that we've just had isn't the one-to-one experience that folks had back in the thousands, but damn, this is it.
If I would have played this game when I was, I don't know, 11 or 12, which was even the game had been out for like 5 years at that point, the original I'm speaking of right now, it would have, I don't know if I would have been able to play it. In fact, I don't really think I got into horror games until after high school. What's besides this game, because this is probably the scariest game I've ever played. Is it the scariest game you've ever played?
Without a doubt. Yeah.
What other game do you think comes close?
As somebody who hasn't played a ton of horror games, and also a lot of the horror games I have played, I just don't feel like they're super scary. Like this is probably going to be a hot take, but I think Subnautica is more scary than Dead Space.
I don't think that's a hot take at all. I think Subnautica is one of the scariest games ever made.
I just and I don't know if it's that I waited a very very long time before playing the Dead Space remake. I never played the original Dead Space. I heard nothing but praise about this game, and it kind of changed the industry in a lot of ways of, how UI is represented visually and not with a proper layover like most games were at the time, but it's just action horror, and there's too many enemies and there's too many jump scares, and eventually you get to a point where just things are no longer scary in that game. Yeah. And again, I'm only speaking on the remake, and I'm only speaking based off of all the thoughts of others, and then also what I thought the game was going to be myself before playing it. Dead Space I'm speaking of, and it just didn't hit. There's Outlast, which I played a little bit of, but never finished. And also there's something not scary eventually about a horror game where you cannot fight back. And then on the other side of the pendulum, when you can fight back too much, kind of like in Dead Space, you've got all these guns and weapons and you're running around and you're kind of doing action hero stuff on this zombie space mining frigate. That on the other end makes things not super scary either. So that you kind of have to hit the sweet spot, at least for me, when it comes to games that have the horror genre within them to truly be frightening. And this somehow hits the balance perfect between somewhere on the Outlast side of things where you do truly feel hopeless and that you can't fight back, and then on the other side where you do feel like you have a shot. So yeah, it's just they really found the sweet spot, and this is it.
Yeah, I think you said that extremely well. You know what it made me think of when you said all that is how I think I've been more scared in scary sections of non-horror games than I usually am in scary horror games. I'm thinking of like Halo 1 flood map or flood level, or some of the levels in BioShock that turn into kind of horror levels at some point. Those moments scared the shit out of me in more of a way than after the first 20 minutes of Outlast, or maybe more than 20 minutes, maybe an hour or two of Outlast, which is an incredibly scary game, especially those first couple hours. Another game that's very scary is this game that I played last October called Amnesia. I mean, everybody knows what Amnesia is, right? But this is Amnesia the Bunker, particularly, is a really, really scary game. The premise is you're in a World War I German trench, and there's a monster down there with you, and you have like a wind-up flashlight, and it's really, really scary. But, the story doesn't compare. And the thing that I love about Silent Hill 2 Remake is that, and probably the original Silent Hill 2 as well. I just didn't finish the original Silent Hill 2. I played maybe 3 hours of it. But the Silent Hill 2 Remake, it starts you out, and I didn't know what to think about the game because I'd never heard anything about it. I didn't know where we were going to go with the story. It started out a lot like I would have felt in like an Outlast game where, okay, the game, you can fight back a little bit. The gameplay's pretty good. Hey, what's going on with this town? Why is it so foggy? Why did the girl in the beginning say it's dangerous? And then it transitions. It keeps bumping the level of horror up past jump scares, past dark environments, and it continues to add layers to the story to where you realize all of a sudden at some point in the game, and I can't remember exactly when I started realizing this, but I was like, oh, this isn't happening in the outside world. My perception is all like me as the main character. My perception is messed up. I'm going through psychological horror as well as physical horror, And that's the layer building that this game can achieve is what continues to ramp up the level of horror. So when you stop getting jump scared, although I never stopped getting jump scared throughout my entire playthrough because it's not overused, but when you stop getting jump scared, when you know that there's going to be a little mannequin monster around the corner, when that stops being as horrific as it was in the beginning of the game, then you start being more horrified by the direction the story is going and the story of the characters within it.
Yes.
And that's something that a horror game at least that I've played, has never really achieved, and that's partly a big part of why I give it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. There's so many horror games that I've played where there isn't a ton of substance. And this has so much in so many different ways. So much of other horror games in the past is get scared, take a breath, go into the next section, get scared. But each time you get scared, you get a little less scared, and it's kind of the same stuff. It's okay, maybe a different enemy type, or a different boss, or a companion character doesn't make it. It's just all kind of I don't know, one note, or just very very predictable behavior from the horror genres. But this one is just so thoughtful in its game design and the level design, and in a very interesting way. I when I first started playing this game, I kind of thought, especially towards the beginning, I thought, oh man, I'm kind of getting a lot of health. I'm kind of getting a lot of pistol ammo. I have a feeling that this game is going to become less scary because of this. And then the game continues on, and was I wrong? They rock you into this sense of security with an abundance of health items and ammo, only to dump you on the other side, just absolutely scare the bejesus out of you, and put you in these awful circumstances where you are going to need all of that ammo, and you're going to need all of that health, and you're going to be lost and confused and so on. So it's the full package.
I'm just sitting here thinking about how the last episode we did was just us absolutely shitting on Alan Wake 2 the whole time. And I feel like this episode is going to be just us absolutely singing the praises of this game for the whole time, and I'm really excited for that contrast.
This game actually wastes your time in the best way that anything can waste your time.
Say more about that.
This is my one nitpick in the entire game that I can genuinely think of. There is a lot of puzzles in horror games. It's kind of a big pillar of the genre, and the developers and the designers are so, like, they just get it. They so get it that they will create puzzles, and as a player, you succeed in solving that puzzle, and you move on, and you go, okay, well, I kind of know what the developers and the designers are expecting of me when it comes to puzzles. And then they give you another puzzle, and then you think that you know what to do, and then all of a sudden you don't. And it's the moment that I'm thinking of is there was a keypad in this, I want to say it was the hospital. Oh, the hospital was a pain in the ass for me. I believe it's the hospital. Forgive me if I'm wrong. There's a keypad, and at least based off of the art direction, it looks like this keypad is missing a button. And prior to this, there are a couple puzzles where things are missing buttons. You have to find the button so that you can press the button so that you can solve the puzzle.
That happens at the very beginning of the game.
And I was convinced that there was a button that I needed to find to solve this puzzle. And hours later, lo and behold, there's no button. And I was just looking at the puzzle wrong. And I just thought, you bastards. This is the best waste of my time that I could think of. There might have been one other moment. I think there was a moment where I had to find an X-ray, and I had to clean the X-ray, but I didn't know I had to clean the X-ray.
Yep.
And that was it. I think those are the two moments with puzzle solving that, and of course I didn't stumble across the item in which you need a spray bottle to clean the X-ray or what have you. But really, it was on me of not exploring enough and not finding that bottle to begin with. Otherwise, I would have went, oh yeah, duh, use the cleaner on the dirty X-ray. So those are my thoughts on how I enjoyed having my time wasted when it came to puzzle solutions in this game. Whereas Alan Wake, in its puzzle design and what they want from you in that game is just so obnoxious and not fun and not creative and not well thought out that I went, you know what? I ran around and wasted a bunch of health and ammo in my real life time trying to solve this puzzle, but here I am enjoying the fact that I did waste my time in this specific instance.
I'm someone who is ridiculously stubborn when it comes to games that I like, at least. If it's a game I don't really like, I'll look stuff up on the internet just to get through it. I think I might have done that for Alan Wake once or twice, but like when it's a game that I'm enjoying, when it's a world I want to be in, I will never look anything up, even if I have to bang my head against the wall for a while. And the thing I love about the Silent Hill 2 remake puzzles is that they simultaneously reward you for being observant while also rewarding you. The game is constantly rewarding you for your exploration, and you want to explore. You want to look at every nook and every cranny because the way the level design is laid out, if you explore on your way to and from locations properly, when you get to that puzzle, not 8 or 9 times out of 10, you're already going to have all the things you need to solve that puzzle on your body, on your person, in your pockets. And that is such a rewarding feeling when you get to that puzzle and you just go, oh yeah, that's what this is for. Click, 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 boom, done. And you move on. That's such a great feeling. Well, at the same time, when you realize you're missing something, it's if you look at it and just think and use sort of like logic and reason, you can usually figure out kind of what it is. Now, there's a couple puzzles that stumped me for a little bit, but almost always it was because I was looking at it wrong or wasn't thinking about it in the right, frame. Or I didn't frame it properly, and then it all kind of comes together, and that's a really rewarding feeling, which is a great gameplay loop for a game that's so full of dread and horror. It's nice to have wins outside of just beating the enemies. It's nice to have, like, you feel like you're conquering the environment a little bit, this environment that's so scary to you.
Yeah, and originally I didn't like the very small white dot of the UI that allows you to see items within the game world that you are allowed to pick up. At first, I went, you know what? I walked by that spot like 18 times and I just didn't look down in just the right way to see that little white dot on the UI, and I would kind of get mad at the game. But then as the game progressed and you learn, again, kind of understanding what the developers are asking of you, then you go, you know what? I'm going to slow things down. I'm going to look at everything like it is the way out. And the more you do that, the more critical thinking you use, the more you observe, the more you read text, and the more that you just kind of slow things down, all of a sudden you're not missing those little white dot pop-ups of items that are on the ground, or you're not misunderstanding a puzzle or what have you. But yes, exploration is not optional,
Right.
really, in this game. Like, you kind of have to explore everything, otherwise you're not going to make it out unless you look everything up online.
Yeah, and it's exploration that, exploration in games is one of the hardest things to do right. And man, this game just nails it. It's up there, and very different, of course, but it's up there with Elden Ring and Breath of the Wild and Subnautica for me as far as rewarding exploration.
Yeah, I would even argue. Again, I don't know how much the original Silent Hill 2 is exactly like the remake, but the level design for this game reminds me so much of modern FromSoft, and
Yes.
and I know this game came out long before FromSoft started cranking out their stuff that they're well known for now. But I was just thinking, like, this is so well designed. It is so tightly wound and wrapped on itself. And to be fair, they do reuse assets. And quick sidebar, I always wondered why all of these horror games that I've played, especially when you and I were covering games for Magnetic, and I always wondered, how come every single horror game seems to really want to do the upside down, like, and now this is the other side of the same space. And originally I thought it was exclusively to save on resources and budget development, and okay, well, you can create these assets and then you texture them differently and you can reuse these areas so that you can extend the length of your game that you're developing, which is all true. But I didn't realize that all of these horror games over the years, and even TV shows like Stranger Things, I think very much, and for all I know, Silent Hill 2 originally pulled from something else, but the upside down, the flipped, distorted side of things, even Alan Wake 2 that we just played, same thing, where you press a button and now here's the flip side of that same area. And I think a lot of media has looked at this and gone, yeah, like this needs to happen for our project. We need to
Yeah.
recreate this
Yeah,
feeling.
and it's something that video games can particularly take advantage of because of, like you said, being able to reuse assets and also just the technology kind of asks for it in a certain way. And I'm not sure, I didn't get to the part in Silent Hill 2 original to see if they do the same upside down kind of thing. But as I played through Silent Hill 2 Remake, I was just asking myself, how much did Silent Hill 2 really influence all these horror tropes in games that we have come to kind of accept as standard, like the puzzles, for instance? Like, did Silent Hill 2 make every game want to just be a puzzle horror game?
I believe Resident Evil and Silent Hill were coming out around the same time, and they were kind of competing with each other, and both are very puzzly. But it'd be interesting to see which game deserves proper credit for really blazing that trail and
Yeah,
pioneering things.
yeah. I would need a video game historian to give us a rundown on that. But man, so tell me some of your other complaints.
It's an obvious one. It's another Unreal game, which
Oh
has
yeah,
its fair share of issues. Lots of stuttering, and it's your just grade A traversal stutter that you get from pretty much every single Unreal game, especially the modern ones. It's disappointing to see because this game is very linear. It's not open world, but you still have a ton of stutter, which is unfortunate.
I didn't have a ton of stutter, but I definitely had stutter, and it is ridiculous. You know, me and Ryan both have 5090 graphics cards, which I know for the average gamer, that's just out of the scope of how much they can spend on a graphics card. And you and I are very lucky to be able to just save up our money and spend it on dumb stuff because we don't have kids and stuff like that. But you know, it's ridiculous that you need that much muscle to be able to have what I would consider an enjoyable experience in this game. Because I booted it up with my 3080 Ti a year ago, and I turned it off. I was like, I just can't experience this game like this.
Yeah. And what a great decision that was. I'm glad you were the guinea pig and you went, nope, not yet, not yet.
Yeah.
And I went, all right. I won't give it a go yet. This is also connected, not necessarily to Unreal. This is an industry issue that I continually complain about. However, was very nicely smoothed out again thanks to our fancy graphics cards with frame generation. But I am pretty sure that the cutscenes are capped at 30 FPS, and because we have frame generation, I believe the frame generation is doubling the frames because typically, at least speaking for myself, I usually play on ×2 frame gen when it's needed. Otherwise, I play native when I can. And I believe it was actually doubling the frames of the cutscenes so that the cutscenes played at 60 FPS. Now, there's certainly some graphical hiccups and issues with doing this, but I much rather would have had the 60 FPS experience than the 30 without the technical hiccups.
Yeah.
Given that.
I honestly
Did
didn't
you
even
do the
think
same?
about. Yeah, I did. I didn't even think about it. But yeah, it was nice.
The pre-rendered cutscenes drive me nuts. Like, please either pre-render it at. I don't even want the pre-rendered ones. They're all pixelated and kind of goofy looking sometimes. This one's done very nicely. I would argue the cutscenes don't look low quality like some of the pre-captures are.
They are.
For some games.
Yeah. And because the cutscenes are relatively few and far between, they're not driving the story home as much as just being in the world is. I'm
Right.
playing Ghost of Yotai right now, and it is jarring to go from performance mode on PlayStation 5 Pro to all of a sudden back to a 30 FPS cutscene. It's jarring and frustrating.
They have 30 FPS in Yote. Oh,
Yep.
well.
Another game that I'm not sure. Are you planning on playing that game?
With how you've been talking about it and with how much I loved the first Ghost, and with how many games I still have yet to play that I know will be good experiences, it's a hard sell right now.
Yeah. I mean, for those listening, a rare time that me and Ryan talk about games all the time, but if it's a game we know we're going to record about, we'll tend to try and stay radio silent for it so we can have the conversation in real time with you guys. If you're listening to this, thank you. And that's how we do it, and we like it, and it's fun for. I mean, the reason we do this isn't necessarily to be listened to. We do it because it's really fun to set aside an hour, 2 hours with my best friend to talk about games. Because usually it'd be, if we talk about a game, it'd be like, whenever we see each other at a bar and we're taking away from another conversation with our friends because we're like, they want to talk to us about our lives, but him and I are just in the corner talking about the latest game we're playing. It's nice to set aside a little time to talk about it. All that is to say
Yeah.
that I did kind of mess up and talk to Ryan a little bit about Ghost of Yotai briefly. And I'm not enjoying it very much, unfortunately. I'm not even sure if I'm going to finish it, but I'll make that
Dang.
decision at some point.
Yeah, back in the day when games didn't come out very often, or you had these large gaps in between major releases, finish the game. But in the modern age of gaming, there's so many great games out there. There's so many experiences that you could be having, and why drag yourself through the mud with something that you're really not enjoying?
Yeah.
We both did it recently for Alan Wake 2.
Yeah, that's kind of why I feel disheartened to continue too, because I just got off a sludge bucket, a sludge train.
Yeah. And we both finished Alan Wake 2 because we were going to talk about it on the podcast. And it's a very unique game in the sense that it's very rare when a AAA game gets a sequel after who knows how long. It was a long time, over a decade.
Yeah.
Since the original game came out. It's very rare to have that happen. And it's also very rare to have a technical showcase because Alan Wake 2 is a technical marvel. There is no denying that.
Absolutely. And it's also rare that you have a game, whereas if you were to pitch it to me verbally, I would think that sounds like a game that I'm really going to enjoy, but playing it was a really bad experience. It's a rare game that I'm really glad that I finished and we talked about. But, Alan Wake 2 is, I don't know, less than 20 hours or about 20 hours. And Ghost of Yotai, I'm 27 hours into it already. And I don't know when I'm going to finish it. And I don't know when the end, like, I don't know, I don't want to spoil anything, but I've only done 2 of the 6 things you have to do in that game for people who've played it. And I'm like 30 hours in, so I'm not sure. That being said, I'll probably finish it. I'll just play it every once in a while on a weeknight when I'm drinking a beer.
Beer game.
Beer game. Anyways, back to Silent Hill 2 Remake. Let me talk to you about something that I think could be a weakness.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so I'm going to start this by asking you a question, actually. When in the story did you realize that we were in James's head? When did those puzzle pieces start to fall into place for you? Or at least that we were in an altered reality. We're not trying to figure out what's happening in Silent Hill, the town. We're trying to figure out what's happening in Silent Hill inside your head.
Well, I suppose when you leap across I think it's the West Apartments gap, and you switch to the other side for the first time. And I know that's not probably the correct verbiage for what that is.
Yeah. It was for me too.
Because as soon as you make that jump, you go, oh, okay. And if I'm not mistaken, in that same time frame, you are introduced to Maria, who is I don't know if it's a hallucination entirely. There's so many things where I'm not sure what's a hallucination and what's not, and what's actually happening. With games like Hellblade, you at least have a character who suffers from psychosis, and so you can kind of pick and choose when you think those moments are happening. But with this one, there's so many layers of what is real and what is not, or what is perception of a real life event that is being played out in a horrific way. When James is confused about Maria, when you catch her on the dock or on the boardwalk or whatever that is there for the first time, you kind of go, what's kind of going on here? And then I believe shortly after you go to the apartments and make that jump across the other side where you start running into Pyramid Head.
Yeah.
I believe that would be the first time.
I think that was for me. And I'm asking you that because I want to describe what I think a lot of people could see as a flaw, but I want to talk about one of my favorite parts of the game, but what I think could be considered a criticism by some. All those moments I knew, that's what the moments you described are the exact moments that really tipped me off that we're inside James's head. But what really, this game oozes symbolism everywhere, right? And symbolism, what I love about it is that it's the kind of symbolism that the developers know you won't get until you play the game a second time. Like when you're exploring in the beginning of the game, and I don't know why this happened to stick with me, but I just thought it was really interesting. when you go to the bar in Silent Hill, when you first get there, you look, the windows are all newspapered up, and on it, written in what looks like blood, is there was a hole here. It's gone now. Like many parts of this game, it's up to interpretation to suss out what that means. But to me, it feels like, well, two things. Number one, there's holes that you, like literal holes you jump into often in this game. Number
Or
two,
reach into.
or reach into.
Ugh. Ugh.
Yeah, shoulder deep. Or, you find out at some point that James is an alcoholic and he's in the bar and he's feeling like, his head is telling him, in this place, you fill that hole. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
that's one thing I love about this game. Another part of symbolism that I love so much, and it was my moment where I really realized how deep in the rabbit hole we are, is the extra long staircase. You remember this?
How could you not?
Yeah.
I would argue it is the moment in the game.
Yeah.
That whole section. Oh, the prison. Oh
Yeah.
God, the prison.
Well, and that's what I
Please
was
don't
getting
make me
at,
go back
is I
there.
think this
Oh.
can be considered a criticism by some, is that struggles with pacing around this time, right? Because you go deep, deep into the darkness. You're in the deep water, right? And then you go prison to labyrinth back to back, I believe.
Mhm.
And you don't get out for like, 5 hours of gameplay or something like that. You don't get out of the darkness. And I think that some people could get frustrated with that pacing. Now, I would hear that criticism. I would rebut it by saying, this is the developers showing you how deep in the darkness James is going. This is showing you how fucked up he is. And it's just showing you the demons that he's battling, how deep into his depression he is going and falling. And I would also say that moment when you open the door and you're back out into the bright, foggy town, there is a sense of warmth that washes over your body in a way I've never experienced in a video game before. Even though you're still in the creepy-ass, abandoned-ass Silent Hill town, I was so happy to be out of the darkness. And not in a frustrated way, but in just a relief way, an emotional relief. Like I had time to breathe again. And that's something that I will never forget in gaming, is opening that door and seeing the light and being so excited.
Yeah, I can see playing devil's advocate and trying to see that point of view from someone else's eyes. I'm on your side 100%.
Yeah.
I think what I will call the slip and slide pacing of this game is phenomenal. Each section gets more miserable and more dark, and you start out at apartment buildings, and then you end up in more apartment buildings, and then the hospital, and then the prison, and then the labyrinth. And there's nothing wrong with Fallout's come out of the vault for the first time reveal. There's nothing wrong with it. And it's fantastic for the very beginning of a game. But this payoff is so much better than something akin to the Fallout come out of the vault, bright light in your eyes reveal. Because in that game, the world's lore is the payoff of, wow, what would it be like to be a mole person living underground for forever and finally get to escape and surface for the first time. But this is just, you go through so much to get that daylight, and you're just wondering you just keep going down further, and for the slide gets slipperier. You just keep sliding and sliding and sliding and sliding, and things get weirder and weirder. Ugh. It's just,
you're jumping in literal abyssal style holes, not knowing what's in there, just jumping. Another criticism I think people might say, and I would hold myself, is that the combat is definitely good. Definitely, I would say it's above serviceable, but the combat could have been better. I could see ways it could have been better.
The combat definitely could have been better. However, I love, again, more, I'm gonna be referencing FromSoft a couple times.
Yeah.
But instead of having the combat be good, the enemies are good. And that's why the combat on its own is flat. But because the enemies are so well created and placed, and their AI is so good, and the way they interact with you, the player, is so good, it's about learning them, and it's not about you, and it's not about button combos and learning, I don't know, skill trees and
perfect
that
parries.
sort of thing. And I know skill trees largely are not a part of horror games. I'm talking to you, Alan Wake, too. But yeah, it's because I kept going, and I know every player who's played this game goes, I swung, and that totally should have interrupted the animation of the enemy. but that is not the case here. You
Yeah.
learn each individual enemy, and you will consistently get punished for not playing the game in that specific way. And
Yeah.
let me tell you, while the combat I would say overall is relatively flat, never in a game have I continued to stomp on or continued to shoot or continued to hit a down and completely dead enemy just to make sure, just to be certain.
Yeah.
And part of that is because they usually scare you, and then you're like, you fucker,
Yeah.
I'm going to curb stomp every last brain bit you have
Yep.
to make up for me being startled and scared, and to also make sure they stay down.
Well, and sometimes it doesn't matter how down they are, they'll just every once in a while sprinkle
Yes.
in a little resurrection that makes you, it's not enough to be like, oh, I got to kill it twice every time. It's just enough to make you question every single one.
Yep. And at first, I got frustrated with this because I'd go into a room, I'd double tap all the downed enemies that were already down, and then you kind of trigger some sort of scripting event in the programming that then allows them to get up and start attacking you.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, I was like, hey, that's not the rules of video games. If I hit you, your animation gets interrupted, and if you're down, you're down. Right? Those are two pretty consistent things in video games. And this game really doesn't care about either of those.
Yeah.
They're just like, screw you. No, like this, we're making our game and this is how it is. And I would argue it's for the better, even if it kind of rejects modern game design tropes, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Which is a great segue into two things I have to say about that. Number one, I love that gameplay mechanic is also just another reminder that this is not a game where you're killing monsters. This is a game where James's head is fucking with him in the worst way possible. He feels like he deserves to be fucked with in this way. It's not going to it's not going to play by the rules. You can't make sure the things you're killing aren't entities that can be killed. The thing you're fighting is the darkness within himself.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing, to kind of piggyback off what you just said, another thing I love about this game is that it feels like a 90s game. I don't know how else to say it. Like, if you had pixelated graphics, this is a game that would have been made in the 90s if they took voice acting more seriously back then.
And in the best sort of way,
exactly.
Too, because I think a lot of people go, oh, it's got the 90s energy, it's got the 90s vibe, it's going to be kind of goofy, or it's going to be overly edgy to the point where it's not cool. But this does it so well
in every single way.
It's
in every aspect of the 90s thing. Because like another aspect of the 90s vibe is that there's no hand holding in this game. It doesn't drag you along kicking and screaming in the way, in a lot of ways. I know we just came off of shitting on Alan Wake 2 and we're just here singing the praises of Silent Hill 2 remake, but Alan Wake 2 feels like the antithesis of this game. You get drug along kicking and screaming for the story of Alan Wake 2. If you don't understand the story beat, even though so you don't understand the convolution of the story, maybe. But like if you can't solve that murder as Saga, you just go into her mind palace and she's gonna explain it to you bit by bit. Just push the right buttons and she's gonna explain every detail to you. This game leaves things up for interpretation in a way that games are afraid to do now, except for maybe FromSoft. It lets you guess what the story's trying to tell you. It doesn't feed it to you heavy-handedly. It allows you to figure out puzzles on your own without having to run around and beat your head on a wall. But because the puzzles are well enough designed, it's possible to do that. It's what every nostalgic kid envisions the 90s games were like. And that's why this remake is very successful, I think, is because it's so true to its source material. I know that the story takes liberties, and I know that there's a whole game mechanic in Silent Hill 2 Remake that shows you references to scenes from the original game that they left out of the other game. I think that's what the Polaroids are, maybe, in Silent Hill 2 Remake. But it stays true to the vibe and upgrades it in a way, upgrades it for the modern era. And that's something that is so rare in a remake.
Yeah, it's just dirty and claustrophobic, and it has your kind of atypical action hero guy in, a girl with a butterfly tattoo and a choker. It is so 90s.
Yeah.
It's small town, right? Another big night, small town 1990s. There's so many little things that it just screams that, but again, in the best of ways. And I feel like there aren't that many, I don't know, maybe I'm not as well versed in 90s media as I should be, but I feel like there are more goofy 90s experiences than there are ones that you could take seriously. I don't know. Am I wrong there?
No,
Do you?
I think you're right about that. And I think especially looking at it retroactively, I think in the time when Silent Hill 2 originally came out, it seemed a lot more serious. And I think that as I played it just a couple weeks ago, it seemed more funny. Like the voice acting, the level design, it just seemed kind of silly in a way that I'm sure they didn't feel silly at the time.
Yeah, retroactive silliness when you
Yeah,
watch something that technologically is inferior to the modern era, and that in itself makes things feel less serious,
right.
even when they should be felt
Right.
more
I
serious.
think back to a time when I was taken to my cousin's house by my dad, and that's the first time I played a PlayStation 1. And they were playing a basketball game on their living room TV, and it was like I don't know, like a family function, like a dinner or Thanksgiving or something like that. And my dad walks in and he goes, "Oh my God, looks like real life. I can't believe they have graphics like that." And this is PlayStation 1, right? We would laugh at that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the lens that we look through when we look at old games and how serious and how not serious they were. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember my dad came in once and I was playing Medal of Honor, I think, on the GameCube or something.
Uh huh.
And he was just completely blown away. And looking back on that now, it's like, you know,
But when I played Vice City at the time, it looked realistic. I felt like I was in Miami. And you play it now, and it's just a janky, like ghost town and full of weird and unremarkable and odd places.
and especially horror, right? Horror has to be convincingly
Yeah,
scary. And if there's something immediately unconvincing about it or uncanny about it, like older tech, then well, it'll never be scary, right? Doom is not the original Doom is not scary
yeah,
because it can't be now because now there's crazy 4K modern Doom or a game like Silent Hill 2 Remake.
yeah. It's all relative. Yeah. So let's talk about the characters a little bit. Let's talk about the characters. So
Yeah. First character that we come across, aside from James, who we play as, is Angela.
Angela, very interesting character. I did not expect her story to go the way that it went at all. Actually, I didn't expect
Oh my
anybody's
gosh.
story to go the way that it went.
Oh my gosh. No kidding. I was thinking back to when when was the first time that you realized that we are inside of James's head?
Uh,
And at first, I I only retroactively felt this way, but when you talk to both Angela and Maria for the first time, there's something uniquely off about how they really don't care that much that there are these absolute abominations of mutilated people and corpses and things that are spliced together that are roaming about Silent Hill,
right?
where you go, you should be more scared or you should really be more concerned about what's going on. And I didn't really put two and two together for a long time when it came to the characters. I would even argue maybe even close to the halfway point or maybe just before that where I start realizing obviously something's up,
Right,
right?
right.
Silent Hill, it's messed up. There's crazy stuff happening. The characters are a tad off. Some characters more than others. But similar to you, I had no idea how, I did not realize in the moment how masterfully Angela's character was created and also how things were going to end up. There's so much foreshadowing with her character particularly, and by the time you get her reveal, you're just absolutely devastated. It is just gut-wrenching and awful and miserable when you start the game thinking, I'm going to find Mary and she's going to find her mama. And of course, later on, you find out neither character are going to find either Mary or their mama. And it's just awful. It's just heartbreaking. And that's just the first character that you meet. And then there's a few more to come. So,
Yeah, and you know what's funny about the foreshadowing you were mentioning before is that even like right when she starts talking, you know there's something off about her. And when she says "my mama," I immediately knew there was some sort of abuse that was going to come up in her storytelling because she's what, I don't know, in her 20s probably when we meet her. Maybe a little bit, I'd say probably mid 20s when we meet her.
yeah.
That seems like
Yeah.
what her age might be. And nobody in their mid 20s refers to their mom as mama. anymore. She's in some sort of arrested development. And it was really sad and also eerie the way that she says that. Just the wording, the phrasing, I'm looking for my mama, was so off-putting to me. I was like, she's either really creepy or she's been abused. Now, I did not know the extent to which her story was going to go, but I knew that there was something like that. And it was a really great piece of foreshadowing by the writers. I also love how her story sort of reveals that Silent Hill is different for everybody. How she says when you see her, when you kind of step into her reality and you look around and she's engulfed in flames and it's really hot. And James says to her, "It's hot in here." And she goes, "It's like this all the time for me."
Yeah.
And that's just that moment when you realize, oh, Silent Hill is different for everybody who's in it. At least that's when I realized it. I didn't realize it before that point. The one foreshadowing to that, speaking of great foreshadowing, is when we're talking to Laura, who's the little girl running around.
Mhm.
And James goes, something to the effect of, "Laura, you can't run around here by yourself. Those things are going to get you. Or aren't you scared of those things?" And she goes, "Scared of what?" Like she has never seen anything besides an abandoned town. That's something I've been thinking about a lot. How Silent Hill is different for everybody and how it kind of presents your darkness. It's like holding up to a mirror to the worst part of yourself, and the town morphs into demons you need.
Yeah, the worst part of yourself highlighting the worst action or worst moment that you've partaken in
Right.
as well. When I first came across Angela and she says mama, I was thinking, well, it's Silent Hill, small town. This might be kind of a country bumpkin kind of character that has this kind of lingo. So while it was off, I didn't entirely write it off as being wrong or that kind of off. I just thought, okay, we've all had interactions with folks out in very like rural places, and things are, those people just act differently because you're just kind of isolated, and mama is still mama to you because you just don't know that many people. Obviously that's not the case moving forward with this character
Right.
and the situation, but foolish me, that was kind of my first take on Angela.
I had thought that same thing because it really did take me off guard, her dialogue choices. And I thought that too. I was like, is this just a small town thing? And I literally stood there for a second in game, like studying Angela as a character. And I looked her up and down and saw she's wearing brown corduroys, decent looking shoes, and a white turtleneck sweater. Like this
Mm-hmm.
is not a country girl, right? This is a city
Yeah.
girl who's traveled here. And there's one other car in the parking lot. When you park to come down, there's a van in the parking lot. And I immediately thought, whose van is this? But I just kind of I kind of forgot about that pretty as almost as quickly as I thought it.
Mm-hmm.
Because once I saw Angela, I was like, maybe this is her van, but that does not look like a car that Angela would drive either. So I was really confused by that. But later we meet a character named Eddie. And the first time we meet Eddie, he's violently throwing up and crying.
Was it because of the melted strawberry ice cream that he was eating with his hands? Maybe. Or it could have been from what we end up finding in the refrigerator.
Could have been. What the thing that I saw watching the footage that I'm watching right now, because usually when you and I record, we'll put a playthrough of the game on the background just to kind of have it on our screens. I was watching the very intro of the game. Whoever was controlling James walked over to that van, and I realized the windshield wipers on the van are pulled up as if it's cold, or he expected them to freeze to the windshield. And I think in Eddie's world, in Eddie's Silent Hill, it's cold. It's like freezing cold.
Yeah, you see his breath when you don't see anyone else's breath,
Yeah.
which is interesting.
And the final fight with him takes place in the meat locker, which is frozen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if to Eddie, I wonder if that ice cream was not melted. I wonder if it was frozen.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, because it's at this point it's the character's perception of another character.
And maybe James is just seeing him as this gluttonous fool that he thinks that he is. I don't know. What's funny is that no one has the answers to that question. Even the writers might not even have the answers to that question. It's just that's what's beautiful about this game is it just leaves it up for you to decide.
Well, and they do touch on it a little bit in the sense when, as you progress through the game, you end up realizing that Eddie's somebody who's bullied, and as a character, as the player, right out of the gate, the developers almost force you to look at this character negatively
Yeah.
in a number of different ways, which of course comes right back to the player, even more so than it comes back to James as a character by the time you end up having to fight him in a boss fight, which is magnificently done. Again, the foreshadowing that this game sprinkles in, and you have no idea that it's happening until the finale for the character's arc is,
Yeah.
oh, it's so well done. It's so well done. Every single character has this.
And right before that boss fight, he's seemingly killing an almost endless number of James Sutherlands who look just like you, and you see their frozen corpses laying on the ground. But then when he sees you, he's not necessarily immediately hostile to you. So it's like you are representing, because you think that way of him, you are the demon in his Silent Hill. You are the bully, right? You're like a
Yes.
good-looking, charming, probably captain of the football team looking type.
Very 90s.
Yeah.
Captain of the football team.
Yep. And he's just looking down at Eddie as a blubbering idiot, saying, "Get out of my way, I'm looking for my hot-ass wife."
Do we want to talk about Maria next, or do we want to talk about Laura next?
Let's talk about Maria.
Maria. Yeah, so this one's very interesting in a number of different ways. It's the first companion character, I suppose, you come across. This is the first character, or is it the first and only?
Unless you count Laura.
Unless you count Laura, who you do spend some time with, but I don't believe you actually traverse environments with her. It's just excluded to cutscenes, I think.
Maybe you're right about that, actually, yeah.
Because you interact with her a bunch, but it's almost exclusively done in cutscenes. It's not a moment where you actually have to defend Laura from being attacked by whatever the hell those leg creatures are, or the spitters are. I'm sure they have names and I've completely forgot, but
yeah.
So Maria is the again the upside down version of Mary. She's got the tattoo, she's got the leather skirt, she's assumed to be a stripper, she's very overtly sexual, attracted towards you, and James knows that this is not Mary, but there are times where Maria tests James's loyalty almost to Mary, which is really interesting because even he knows that Mary's dead.
Yeah, and you said it all perfectly. But one thing that I noticed, that especially after having beat the game, and you find the kind of the reveal you get at the end, you find out that Marissa does something that even Mary didn't do, which is be overtly sexual and be more of this sort of sultry, sexy version of the woman that he loved. But Mary wants him. She doesn't just want him sexually. She really wants, you could like almost immediately, she's saying, "I want to be with you." She's giving him hints that she wants to be with him. And we find out later that Mary was being terrible to him. Mary was being an absolute piece of shit to James through her illness. And you just really see, you really start to peel back the layers of what James is going through.
Yeah, and I don't know, was it that Mary is actually being a piece of shit to him, or was it that the quality of his life was just completely surrounded around her illness? This is a part where I wasn't 100% sure on, because I felt like Mary's illness became all-consuming for James's life, and then he ended up resenting her and hating her.
I think both those things are true, and part of the reason that he resented her so much was because, specifically, she says in the letter at some point something to the effect of, "I was so mad at everybody, but I took it all out on you all the time."
Mm-hmm.
So Mary was being really bad to him. She was being angry and lashing out and making his life miserable, not only because of what she was going through, which was a terrible thing in itself, but also because she was punishing James for all of the anger she felt for the way her life is turning out for going through this illness. That was my interpretation.
Yeah, I can't remember if this was a cutscene or some note or something that we came across in the game where she also says, I want you to move on, is basically what she tells James. Like, I want you to find somebody else and be happy. And in a weird way, he finds this alt version of Mary in Maria,
right,
where he does find someone else, even if this is a hallucination or just a different flavor of the same person that he once loved.
But in this reality, even though he finds that, his guilt over what he's done is too heavy to allow himself to feel that bit of happiness, which is, what true horror is all about.
Yeah.
Wow, I just saw another little man. Can't wait to replay this game. I might replay it again next October because I'm just seeing all these little Easter eggs while I'm watching this playthrough.
If we're lucky, Silent Hill 1 remake will come out next October.
Yeah.
I hope they start cranking these things out like they did the Resident Evil remakes.
Or we could try Silent Hill F. I've heard it's very different, but it might be worth a playthrough.
It's true. I really do want to experience all the Silent Hill games after this one. Like, even knowing that they will probably not live up to this.
Yeah.
I'm so fascinated by this franchise now because of this game.
I agree.
It's interesting to me that every character is in Silent Hill for a reason. And that reason is usually traumatic, but also in one way or another involves death. And oftentimes death that the character themselves created.
Yeah, like the town draws you.
Yeah. With James, you have him murdering and killing Mary. With Angela, you have her murdering and killing her father. And Laura, you have witnessing, in one way, shape, or another, I believe, the death of Mary, maybe not directly. And Eddie, who I know at least killed the bully's dog, if not the bully himself as well. I had a hard time following this, but every character in the game has either murdered someone, killed something, or watched something be killed. And they are all there for that very reason.
Yeah.
And it's very haunting how each character slowly gets to the point where you see why they are at Silent Hill.
Yeah. Although I legitimately think Laura is actually looking for Mary as well. I think that it's interesting that you see that Laura is innocent enough to not be affected by the town. The town's not corrupting her in the same way it's corrupting everybody else, because it seems like she's just kind of running from location to location fairly willy-nilly, unharmed by anything, and also unbothered by anything. The countless horrors that everybody else is seeing as they go through the town. And it's like Laura, if the town is a mirror for the occupants of Silent Hill's evil side, Laura is the opposite of that, right? She's the example of innocence that exists. And I think it's a really great contrast. She's a really cool little character, especially because she's like bullying you.
Yeah, with the one-line zingers of fart face.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
Just absolute bangers from a child. It's like, ooh, damn. That is some playground beat down there.
Yeah.
Oh, and Angela's mama. Oh, Angela's mama who's never there. It's so messed up.
She never finds her mama.
She never finds her mama.
Maybe it's Margaret Qualley in Death Stranding. Maybe that's mama.
Maybe. I think these games could be connected. What? I don't. Do we want to keep talking about characters and their development?
No, I think that's.
Is there any more that you want to say about Angela, Laura, Mary, Maria, James, or Eddie?
Watching Mary die multiple times was an interesting sort of roller coaster.
Maria or Mary?
I'm sorry, Maria. Marissa, I think it's Maria. It's Maria.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might.
Yeah, Maria.
I just realized I might have said Marissa earlier in the recording, and I apologize for that. But yeah,
I don't think you did. I think you've been on point.
Okay, nice, good. Yeah, watching Maria die the first time, especially, it's also symbolic that it dies to Pyramid Head, which is the ultimate representation of your evil deeds.
Mm-hmm. Or James himself.
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got. Yeah, what do you want to move on to?
There's so many things that I want to touch on, but aren't necessarily not organized and not necessarily in one lane. And I'm afraid to just become random with things that I have to say about this game.
That's all right. Rapid fire, baby. Let's do this.
There's no game that I've played that deals with claustrophobia better than this game. I have never played a video game where I am inside of a wall.
Yeah.
The amount of times you have to crawl through small spaces.
I think The Last of Us does it a couple times.
Yeah.
I mean, literally being in walls.
Yeah.
I think The Last of Us does that maybe once or twice.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had that. But yeah, the claustrophobia, especially with the oppressive darkness. This game is dark.
Yeah, it's just like as a whole, the game is so claustrophobic. Whether you're in an open hallway, plenty of room to run around, but it's still claustrophobic, or you're physically in a wall for a kind of cutscene, or not cutscene, but you know what I mean. When you're in game, but it's very much so an animated sequence, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I know we touched on it briefly, but grabbing things out of the wall, also jumping down things, and the game is like making you press the same key over
Yeah.
and over
Yeah.
as like both you as a player and as James as a character. They don't want to go there. They
Yeah.
do not want to jump down this rabbit hole, and neither do you, because as a player things are about to get so much worse.
Yeah.
And I love that. You're like, they make you press the button sometimes three to five times, it feels like, to jump down some of these holes or to reach into a cavity to grab some sort of, or reaching into the toilet, just like if you were having to be the person to grab some weird thing out of a toilet full of whatever, that is exactly how you'd feel. You'd be like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Escape sequences. Usually I get tired of escape sequences or don't like them, or you fail them a bunch in video games to the point where it loses its momentum.
Yeah, it's
I guess you could say.
gravitas.
Yeah. Where it's like, okay, like this was cool, but I've died so many times now that this is annoying and also not filmic or immersive or exciting.
Yeah.
Or panic inducing. I think all of the escape sequences in the game are relatively hard to fail and just flow really nicely.
Yeah.
And are exciting. And you almost get excited for them. You're like, oh, thank God, I got to run away.
Yeah.
I gotta get out of here. Like, this is
don't
great.
have to fight this
I
thing.
hate this spot.
Yeah.
Yes. And how 9 times out of 10, you got a boss fight in a video game, you have to actually defeat the boss. In this one, it's nope. You are the boss.
Yeah, exactly.
You are the boss. The fight will have to be resumed another time. All of these very special moments.
Yeah.
And the fact that every single boss is a character's hell and what they've lived in the real world.
Yeah.
But personified in this horrific way. The only game I can relate this to is Persona, and Persona's version of this is very lighthearted, so it's not even a comparison. What else do I got? What's the most what moment in the game had you the most scared or the most like, oh shit, like here we go?
Oh, man, my most oh shit, here we go moment was you spend the whole game getting absolutely destroyed by Pyramid Head, and then when you see 2 of them, you're just like, oh fuck, this is gonna be a challenge. That was my most oh fuck moment. My scariest moments, honestly, that whole sequence between the prison and the labyrinth were very, very scary for me. Just that oppressive darkness.
Yeah.
So it should be noted, I played this game in a matter of, I think, 2 days, maybe 3. So I had like 3 sessions where I absolutely binged it. It was like 20 hours in 3 days or something like that. So essentially, when I played the long staircase to coming out the other end of it, was like a 5-hour binge where I didn't stop playing it at all. That whole moment, that whole sequence, I just felt myself getting more and more stressed out and more oppressed by this darkness. I just needed to get out so badly. And everything I did, I started to get more rushed. I started to use my gun a lot more than I would otherwise. I started to get desperate to just get the hell out. And when I finally did, it added to that feeling of relief so much. I don't think I'll ever forget being in that darkness.
Yeah, the prison to labyrinth sequence is rough, to say the least. And again, hats off to the designers of this game, because you just get through the hospital, which is a very intricate level 1, 2, and 3, finding keys, solving puzzles. It's pretty predictable.
Mm-hmm.
And the hospital is arguably the last time where something is predictable as far as this game goes. You get into the prison, you're still solving puzzles for sure, but nowhere near the amount of puzzle solving that it takes to get through the hospital. You're putting weights on a scale. You're sprinting from area to area.
You're putting weights on a scale in a dark room where there's always something running. You always have footsteps behind you.
But there's nothing there.
But there's never anything there.
There's never anything there. The amount of times I whipped around.
And the amount of time I thought when the scales were done, you'd get a boss battle in there or something like that, or some big thing would be there. But nope. But you know what? What's also brilliant about that? Those sequences that are in that deep darkness, in the belly of the earth, in the belly of James's depression. and guilt. You kind of emerge out the other side of it, and you get greeted with one of my favorite levels I've ever had in a video game. Maybe I loved it so much because it was not the darkness anymore. But the final level of the game is actually bright. It's like this beautiful, idyllic lakeside island hotel. I loved that sequence. I had so much fun playing that part of the game. Did it stand out to you?
Yeah, I fully expected that entire level to be something that then morphed into something horrific. And
Yeah.
it really it has its scary moments for sure. You
Yeah.
got plenty of puzzles to solve here. You're still doing a lot of the same things. But it's at this point where the game just lets you take a breath.
Yeah.
And it's a much needed one.
Yeah.
Because you're just on a downward spiral from the moment you hit the apartments to the moment that you survive the labyrinth. And you come out this other side, and not only do you have reconciliation as far as gameplay goes, but you also get that with the story and the characters, and you get it with Laura, you get it with Mary, you get it with through Maria, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, it kind of connects to that garden, graveyard, courtyard area that you initially visit at the beginning of the game.
Yep.
So it is a literal full circle of character movement or
Wait,
player movement.
I don't think it's linearly connected or geographically connected because you have to get on the boat and row out there, right?
You do, but it certainly feels like you're coming back to something that you came to before. You're right. I don't think it's the same spot. I don't think that graveyard spot is actually, I don't know, maybe it is. It's so hard with games that,
I know,
that distort reality constantly.
Now I'm questioning it because the game ends, at least my ending, I was back in my car. So I almost thought, did I never leave? Or did I physically get out, move through the town, and then end up back in my car? That's one thing I was unclear about.
I think we had the same ending.
Okay, so I had the watery ending.
Yep.
Okay.
Has to die.
Which I think I did go look up the other 2 endings you can get for your first playthrough. I think there's 8 endings, but they all have to be your second or third playthrough. And I think that I like that ending the best. I think it makes the most sense out of the story.
I think so too.
Did you look up other endings?
I looked up some of the goofy ones with aliens, and I don't know if these were the ones that were originally in.
There's aliens.
There's one where there's something with UFOs and aliens, and James gets abducted or something. And I don't know if these were originally in one of the endings of the game that came out. The OG Silent Hill 2. I'm not sure, but yeah, there's some goofy ones, and then there were some serious ones. So I don't think I saw all of them because I kind of wanted to. I was like, I might replay this, so
yeah,
I might want to see some for myself, but at the same time, I'm not really sure what I need to do or how I need to play the game to unlock these endings either.
Yeah, you'd have to look it up because it's pretty vague.
Yeah, exactly. For all I know, it could be a don't get hit by an enemy the entire game ending, which I'm never going to be able to do. So
yeah.
One thing that I don't think we've touched on too much, but I know we both certainly appreciated. Holy shit! The sound design is just absolutely off the charts in this game.
Yeah.
It goes without saying. A horror game isn't a good horror game without good sound design, I would argue. And oh man, does this game have incredible audio design?
It absolutely does. You know what else it has is an amazing soundtrack.
Yes,
the original score is absolutely insane, and in fact, I've been listening to it since I beat the game.
Ugh. I'm just thinking back to so many moments. So you could just close your eyes and you could see this game.
Yeah. I've got a question. What do you think the red save squares represent, and what do you think it means when you see 9 of them at the end of the game? Did that stand out to you when you saw the 9 of them?
I'm trying to think of when you see 9 of them, or maybe I was just so flabbergasted by that point. I didn't think much of it.
You see 9 of them I think it's your last save right before the final boss.
Yeah, that I'm unsure of. Sadly, the very end of the game is what I remember the least. I mean, I know you end up more or less re-killing Mary or Maria,
right,
or a variant of her,
right.
But I just don't really recall the 9 squares. But to the original question, or the first question rather, I think I'm sure there is a deeper meaning. But if there's one thing that's consistent, is the game will always keep you in a red hue in moments that matter, whether it's an escape sequence or a save point. It's like this weird dark room filter that is in a lot of different areas of the game. And I think it serves like just a very obvious purpose that you have a dark horror game. Here's the save point. In order to make any sort of progress, you need to find a save point. It's one of those sort of things.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I don't know. I really, it's just kind of like this like little red beacon of hope that you find everywhere, and it's a save point. And again, there's many moments where the lighting is that same red hue that the save point is. But yeah, the nine though, I don't even recall this, so I'm kind of bummed that I missed that part.
I always thought that I just sent a picture of the 9 into the group chat to see. I always thought the red was such a menacing red that it didn't.
Yeah. Okay.
This is
yeah. Now I remember it. It was in a square. If you would have told me it was in a square, I would have remembered immediately. But I was thinking of like 9 scattered or like 9 in a room.
So it's like you always get that one save square, right? And you go to it, and this is your checkpoint. And it never really seems like a beacon of hope to me. It seems like dread. It looks like dread to me. But then you finally save, or I guess it does represent hope because it's your checkpoint, but it just looks menacing to me. And then when you see 9 of them like this, it just seems so like this game is just full of symbolism, and it had to represent something, and I just didn't know what it was. This is the first time that I'm looking up stuff for this game because I like to stay neutral for our talks, but I'm looking and seeing people say that the developers have confirmed that each one represents a horror. They each represent one of the enemies you fight in the game. I guess there's 9 enemies in the game, 9 delusions.
Oh, like kind of boss fights or major events that you have to tackle?
The final red square is the one truth. 9 squares in the Japanese cover of PS2 and the special steel book of the remake are the 9 circles of hell. Illness, mutilation, ugliness, reality, torment, anguish, suffering, despair, and the final boss itself.
Well, I certainly wouldn't have pulled that from it.
I wouldn't have either.
But I'm glad, like, not even with the bosses, let alone the 9 ailments of horror or what you just said.
Yeah. But I did see, for me, they represented almost like a mirror or something. Something that, like, James doesn't want to look at. And I think even a detail of this, when you see the 9 squares, is James won't, his character will avert his eyes from the squares. He won't look at them, which I thought was interesting. That's what really made me think about what the hell this means.
Yeah. And I know Maria has some commentary when you're actually in a save screen, and she'll say some certain things to you.
Oh, really?
And the few moments that you spend with Maria, she will, when you're in a save screen for, I don't know, any more than 10 seconds or something, or 15 seconds, or maybe it's a longer time than that, she'll comment on that. Like, hey, are you all right? You just kind of zoned out there.
Oh, yeah.
So it's something that other characters don't see, but you see. So it's kind of interesting. You just kind of black out and stare at something that other characters don't see.
For me, it was almost like it was breaking the fourth wall. It's like you pause to save, and she's like, "Hey, are you okay?" Like your whole body just froze there for a second. Yeah, you're right. I do remember that now.
Yeah, and it might, like you said, it might just be a fourth wall thing that we see sometimes in games, or it's just other characters in the game noticing that fellow characters are not seeing the same things.
Yeah,
like I didn't even think about the melted ice cream and Eddie with his breath that you see until you brought it up.
Yeah, now I want to look up to see if that van is really his because the windshield wipers are up on the van, or if maybe that's just the model of that van and it's everywhere throughout the game. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, okay, James walks in, he sees some empty pizza boxes, he makes fun of Eddie kind of about him eating all of this pizza, and now he's over there slurping up melted strawberry ice cream or whatever that was supposed to be.
Yeah, he's eating melted strawberry ice cream with his hand while sitting with a little girl in a
completely pitch black dark theater.
Exactly. Clandestine horror movie theater. Oh, Eddie. Speaking of characters, hats off to every voice actor. I think everybody did a fantastic job. It was campy in the best way possible. It was heart-wrenching. It was hard to read. Everybody did a fantastic job.
I completely agree. There's not one weak link as far as voice acting goes in this game, which is hard to say because there's, again, Alan Wake. Everyone did pretty good except for Saga. In my humble opinion, it's like, oh,
Yeah, I think that the guy who
darn.
plays Alan Wake has a couple of stumbles too. And I think a lot of that, even with Saga, I think a lot of it was dialogue that they were forced to read and they were given a pretty hard job. I think the guy who plays Sam Lake does as good as he could do, but I think his acting falls a little bit when he's in real time.
Yeah, and it's tough too because so much of his character is this monologue of his writing,
And it's written
and
so
that
campy. It's supposed to be campy, you know?
yeah, and he does a super good job of those monologues. But then when you have the real moments with him interacting with other characters, it's almost like the voice actor's kind of like, okay, so now how am I supposed to sound? Because 90% of my lines are monologue
Yeah.
that I do really well.
But I mean that actor does really good. It's not his fault that the game. I have my opinions of the game. But back to Silent Hill 2. What else you got? I see we're almost running the 2 hour mark in our recording here.
Yeah,
You got some.
yeah. I'm kind of running out of things to say about this game.
I am too.
It's just you you got to experience it. I will say that I never thought I would give a horror game a 10 out of 10. I didn't think the genre was capable of such a thing. Almost similar to how a multiplayer shooter is never going to be a contender for Game of the Year award, that sort of thing. I didn't think that a horror game could accomplish so much.
Yeah.
It accomplishes phenomenal level design and mood and feel, and you're always on the edge of your seat. You're always wondering what's next. The characters they kind of start out as a slow drip, but by the time you get to the midpoint, you're really seeing what has happened to these people. It's very rare when you play a game or even consume any kind of media where you don't have or that you're not that you have an idea of what's going on, and you could probably guess, right? If you were betting, if you had to put money down on it, what's going to happen. Who are these characters?
Yeah.
What's going to happen next? What's the finale look like? What's the I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's just the complete package. It's I don't from start to finish. It is just an absolutely phenomenal game, and it makes me sad on a personal level, not just because the game is just super depressing, but it makes me sad that I have not given this genre, the horror genre, a fair shake. And now that I've had this experience with Silent Hill 2, I almost feel like I'm on the warpath to find the next 8, 9, 10 out of 10 horror game.
I would be ecstatic to find another 8 out of 10 horror game. I mean, you know how. I mean, did you ever think that I would rate a horror game a 10 out of 10? Did you think that I had a 10 out of 10 in my mind going into this?
I think you did, only because I did. And I know you usually rank games like a full point or a full point and a half lower than I do, especially if we're on the same page. That's typically how it goes. But there's just nothing like it. And I knew it. Like, as soon as I rolled credit, you get halfway through the game and you're like, there's nothing like this.
Yeah.
I would argue it even pushes the boundaries of games as a whole, regardless of whether or not it's a horror game.
Yeah. And you know what is crazy? Is that at the Game Awards 2024, it won nothing.
Which, being a remake, I can see that argument's been around for forever. No matter if it's a complete remake from the ground up, you can't have something like that as the Game of the Year.
Even when it adds so much more content.
Yeah.
And then in this same realm, I'm playing devil's advocate here. How often do you have a DLC that's in the running for Game of the Year, which happened in 2024 with Shadow of the Erdtree?
That's a great counter argument, and I completely forgot about that.
It's just silly. And it's Black Myth Wukong. I never played Black Myth, but it's hard to imagine how it would be better than this. Did you play Metaphor?
I did not get around to Metaphor, and I really, really am excited for that time to come, because I love JRPGs, and everyone says Metaphor is the best that Atlas has produced. So.
Yeah. And so the winner of Game of the Year 2024 was, of course, Astrobot, and I do believe that game deserved to win. But man, I'm not sure if I'd give Astrobot a 10 out of 10, personally.
Yeah. Well, and the Game of the Year award is not necessarily meant for the best game. It's what game is the most impactful across the biggest audience of people. And that's why.
And I do agree with that.
Yeah. It's what is the most impactful, or what changes the gaming industry as a whole the most across the biggest audience. And that's why, Baldur's Gate 3 won over Tears of the Kingdom. It's not that Tears of the Kingdom didn't deserve it and it wasn't a 10 out of 10. It's just that when's the last time a CRPG hit this hard?
Yeah.
It's industry shattering. And same thing, I can guarantee, I would put money down that Expedition 33 is going to win Game of the Year because of the same exact thing.
Yeah.
This time it's not a CRPG, this time it's a JRPG.
Yeah.
And it is shaking up the formula, and it's doing it so well, and it's so impactful, and it's such a big thing for the gaming industry and players as a whole. Now people are playing CRPGs because of Baldur's Gate. Now people are playing JRPGs because of Expedition 33,
Yeah.
and I would even argue now people are playing more horror games because of the Silent Hill 2 remake. Like, it takes that, like, that is so impactful to the audience as a whole, or the industry rather as a whole. That's what makes Game of the Year, not necessarily what is the best game of the year. It should be that way, but it's just not.
Well, because what is the best game of the year is way too subjective.
Yes.
We've talked about it a lot. People think that Alan Wake 2 is the best game they've ever played, and you and I are like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So I think that you're right. And, you're looking at down the line I'm just looking at the Wikipedia page for Game Awards 2024, and, Balatro is next on the list. And that was a very, some people loved it, some people didn't like it that much. It was a very influential game, and it did something different than no other roguelike has done before. And honestly, Shadow of the Erdtree, I know you haven't played it. I have, start to finish. I put 80 hours into that. 80 hours into a DLC. It's done something that no DLC has ever done before. So I do see why these nominations are here. That being said, I also think that Silent Hill 2 Remake has done something that nothing's ever done before. And I think that it probably should have at least been nominated. But I don't know. There's a lot of heavy hitters here. I mean, going down the list, it's Astrobot, which won, Balatro, Black Myth, which was a huge seller. And Black Myth was just like an absolute beast. Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor. Those are all huge hitters. Huge hitters.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure where Silent Hill 2 would fit in there. But, man.
Well, I'll tell you where it fits on my 2024 list.
Yeah, me too.
And it's right at the number one slot. And you know what was number one before that?
What's that?
Mouth washing for me last year.
Yep. Mouth washing was my actual game of the year for 2024.
Yep. Until now. And I know it's not fair to do retroactive, but it's like I can't get to all the games in the year that they're released. And I know it's maybe incorrect to retroactively change your game of the year, but without a doubt, Silent Hill 2 Remake is my game of the year for 2024.
Well, this is a great segue because I think one of our next episodes, before 2026, we need to record an episode talking about our games of the year. Both games we played this year and also games that actually came out this year. You know what I'm saying? But have you finished Dispatch?
I have. I finished Dispatch just the other day, and I'm ready to talk.
All right. I think we should do that as soon as possible. Maybe even, I'm not sure if we'll have time this week, but maybe next week for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometime in December, we'll do our Game of the Year recap. And
talk about games that we both played or that we both played and didn't talk about.
Yep. I think we'll have some time to talk about some games that we have on our list. I don't know. I mean, I know you and I have both beaten Indiana Jones Great Circle. I know we've both beaten
South of Midnight.
Thank you. Do you want to have individual episodes for those games, or do you want to just include them in a recap of the year?
I think we could just include them in a recap of the year.
Okay.
I would say the most I have to say about either of those two games is about South of Midnight, and even then, it's a much shorter conversation. Indiana Jones is just all feels for me.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that what we'll do is do a recap of the year, and if it happens to be a 3-hour episode, it's a 3-hour episode, and we'll just talk for a while.
That's right. That's right. We'll just skim through all the games that we played that we maybe didn't dedicate an entire episode to.
Yeah, and just because of I don't know if I want to say this now, but I will, I guess. 2025 started out bad, and it's kind of been a bad year. Not the worst year I've ever had. It's probably not going to be the worst year I will ever have, but it's not been a great year. And I've really found myself rediscovering, not that I ever lost it, but rediscovering my love of video games and how much I use it as an escape from things. Man, I love this hobby so much, and this has been one of the best gaming years of my life. I've really thrown myself at the medium, and I've really immersed myself in these worlds when my actual life has been not the best. And I guess what I'm trying to say is I played a lot of games, and I'm really excited to talk to you about them. So
yeah,
I played a lot of games that you haven't played. I've usually, you are playing games more than me. Usually you're pushing me to finish a game so that we can talk about it. This year was the complete opposite. I was really pushing you to finish games. I was knocking out games right and left, and I was like, come on, we got to talk about this. You got to play it. And it's just been out of everything else in my life, gaming it's been a good gaming year, and I'm really thankful for that, and I'm really excited for that conversation we're going to have about the year recap.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah, I've had a couple years, here and there where, not always the best, but again, some of those years are the absolute best gaming years, and they really help in so many different ways. You have all of these different experiences, and yeah, you know, I love I love video games. Like, video games are so awesome. It's just there's nothing quite like it to help you get through things. And even when you're not going through anything at all, it's just, damn, a good game's a good game. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
and
fantastic.
maybe it's my sentimentality, or maybe it's just I'm sort of inserting an idealistic view on things because that's what human brains do. But it always has felt to me like games find you when you need them,
Hmm.
and that has never been more true for me than this year. And honestly, the last, well, 20 years.
Yeah.
um, uh, so much of this hobby for me is going back and just I will very very often in the evenings when I'm feeling sentimental or maybe feeling a little bit drunk, I put on like a soundtrack of a game, maybe Breath of the Wild or Life is Strange or Death Stranding or name your game. And it just
Hmm.
takes me back to that moment in my life that I found something that I needed. I found something that healed me in a way that I'm not sure anything else could have. And I will be eternally grateful for to video games for that.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right, well on that sentimental note, any final thoughts on Silent Hill 2 Remake?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a 10 out of 10. Fart face. Dexter, this is your fault. You're nearby.
Oh, Dexter, I made a huge mistake.
Daddy's home and he's angry.
Daddy, Daddy spilled his